It's always interesting to speculate on how Nintendo will evolve or iterate on the Nintendo Switch. Will they go with an XL? Will they go with a Mini? Will they go with 4K? Will they go with something entirely different? Well, speaking of different, a German advertisement for the Switch gives us a very interesting idea on how Nintendo could change up the Switch in a new version. What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from Switch Force. Gabe is here, and the picture you see on your screen is an actual advertisement in Germany, and it shows what is our Switch, but with very little to no bezel. It's almost like the iPhone X fused with the Switch to give us an edge-to-edge screen. Now, a lot of people on Reddit have been discussing this and saying, if they think this is something that is possible or if they would even want this. And there's some really interesting points being made. But Gabe, first I want to get your take on a bezel-less Switch.
That would be fantastic. I just told you off air. Currently, this last week I was flying somewhere and I was playing an unreleased game on Switch, and I played on the airplane, and the bezel really caught my attention for some reason. I don't know if it was like the motion, like in like the plane moving and something. I was really like put off by it, and you get used to it. But obviously, a bezel-less Switch where the screen is a little bit more edge to edge would be awesome. And if phones can do it, maybe the next Switch can do it. And by what I mean by the next Switch, I mean the iteration on it. Just for because, sure. Game Boy Advance, not the whole next one, whatever, you know what I mean.
Absolutely. So I've been using the iPhone X for a week now, and I freaking love it. Say what you want about Apple versus Android. The edge-to-edge screen is super freaking pretty, super cool, and early on in the Switch existence, I didn't like the bezel. And you're right, you absolutely do get used to it. For me, it's completely disappeared. But it is something that when you use something without bezel, you do begin to notice. And I'm sure certain games and certain scenarios make that bezel more obvious. But the cool thing here is how people on Reddit were discussing the possibility and potential for this. Because we have mentioned Switch XL, Switch Mini, things of that sort. The idea of changing the form factor of the Switch brings a whole lot of issues, right? Because Nintendo loves to keep their accessories consistent. I don't think they would iterate on the Switch and change up the Joy-Con size, especially since they have sold so many separate Joy-Con sets, and that seems to be just a critical piece of the puzzle this time around. If they were to keep the exact same form factor, this would be a way for them to increase the screen size, potentially increase the hardware power internally, and not mess with any accessories, not mess with docks, not mess with any of that. This was highlighted by a couple of users on Reddit, just to give them some shout-outs. PM Me or Muscle Up, L Licked, and Joe Tony 6 were all talking about how this would be really kind of the ideal scenario.
Yeah, and like and it makes perfect sense, right? You said if you do make another like Switch, you don't want to mess with the size of it because the Joy-Con are such an integral part to it. So this would like make it an absolute perfect upgrade. Maybe a 1080p screen instead of a 720p, just with that extra like inch or so of space. I don't know what the pixel density is going to be and how many pixels per inch, and there's a lot that goes into that. But if they can do it and make it so that you get a comparable performance, like just a small boost where maybe the Tegra chip is, a little bit more high powered or something, and now you can do 1080p docked and mobile. Like I feel like that would be good. Right. And it's not a brand new console. Everything's still mostly the same. It's not a dramatically more powerful one. It only catches up the limitations of handheld to docked, and that makes it better. Plus, you get a cooler screen. So
right.
I feel like that would be such a genius move.
Absolutely, and it would fall in line with some of the iterations Nintendo has made previously, 3DS XL, things of that sort. Small upgrades, sort of also in line with PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X, providing a half step. We'll have to see if Nintendo eventually goes there, but I really love the look of Mario Odyssey with no bezel. It looks so freaking cool, and people have mentioned that you'd have to also take into account, battery and things of that nature, and how much could you improve the internals without wrecking battery life or ruining heat. But obviously, as the years go on, plenty more opportunity for that. But I think it's really cool that this accidental Photoshop oops turned into something that would be very sweet for a Switch upgrade. Plus, I like the fact that if this did happen, I don't feel like people would be upset about having the original Switch. Right, and to me, that's something that's very important to maintain while you do a half-step type upgrade.
Yeah, and people have proven now with other platforms that they don't mind. Like, as long as you give them a way to transfer over your saves, and Nintendo has done that, you can transfer everything over once now. They'll be okay. I feel like people, I mean, I know you and I would buy this and transfer stuff over, and we wouldn't mind. So, yeah, I think that's become a little bit more widely accepted. I did want to give a shout out to Android users. I use a Galaxy S8 Plus, and that's also like bezel-less. I don't have bezel on my phone, so you are not the only one, Zach. You with your fancy iPhone X.
There we go.
Shout out to the rest of us.
Shout out to the rest of us. Let us know your take. If the Switch is to get an upgrade at some point in the future, not a Switch 2, but just a half step, would this bezel-less idea interest you? Would you upgrade to a Switch with a slightly larger screen and maybe some enhanced interior power? Or would you not be interested by that? Would you rather them change the form factor? Or do you think it makes the most sense in order to maintain consistency with Joy-Con and with all other accessories, adapters, etc., to keep the form factor and do something more along the lines of what you're seeing on your screen? Let us know. It's an interesting conversation, and we're excited to have it with you. So talk at us in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all the latest and greatest from the Switch, any potential iterations, and all of us here at Switch Force. Until that time, thanks again. Have a fantastic day. For myself and Gabe, Switch Force out.